Good morning. Thank you very much for this lovely introduction, and mainly thanks for this invitation. Nehurst and the Caribbean Youth Science Forum. Is a great honor to be here, a great pleasure, and to be with you these next 3 days, to be able to talk a little bit about science, but more about perhaps the passion of being a scientist. I think that's the topic that I would like to cover briefly today, and leave the technical aspects of research for tomorrow since we have time. And for me it's really a great pleasure to look at this auditorium and seeing all these young faces from all over. And I just heard that you guys come from all over the Caribbean. So the first thing I want to know is who is from where. So who is from Trinidad here? Wow. I have 5 football teams here, 2 cricket teams. So who is from Jamaica? Here they are. Grenada? Here they are. Which others? Haiti? Barbados? How many there? 3? 4? Oh, 2 hiding there. This is wonderful. Yeah, I think the first thing you need to know about science, in my opinion as a Brazilian, in fact I grew up in Brazil. I was born in Brazil and spent 29 years in São Paulo, my hometown. We call it the little town of São Paulo, and it's 23 million people. So we have lots of neighbors. But then I moved to the United States, and I have been in the United States for 25 years. But 10 years ago I started going back to Brazil. When I decided to create an institute in a place nobody would go to do science. That's in the Northeast. The Brazilian ambassador will agree with me. This is in the outskirts of a city called Natal, 5 degrees south of the equator. And no Brazilian scientist would go there to do science, not because it's not beautiful, not wonderful, but because there was nothing, no infrastructure to do science. And the reason I decided to go there, even though I'm from the south of Brazil, I never went to Natal when I was in Brazil, was that I wanted to prove a point, that you can do high quality science anywhere in the planet, provided that you have human passion. It's not even talent. Talent we all have. Talent comes with the DNA of the human species, otherwise we would not be close to 7 billion people right now, right? You need talent to survive in this world with small hearts. It's not easy to survive, and we did pretty well for our species. But so when I went to my university, that is the biggest university in São Paulo, with this idea of going back to Brazil in 2004 to create an institute, I'm going to tell you very briefly, a neuroscience institute with a complete different mission, not the typical neuroscience institute that you see around the world just to do brain research, but we wanted to do science in a different way. We wanted to do science as an agent of social transformation. Why I chose Natal? Because at that point, Natal was in the middle of the poorest part of Brazil. The part of Brazil that people from the south, like me, used to say, oh, there's no hope. Nothing will happen there. That is a place where nothing will grow, nothing will flourish, and there is no chance anything good will grow from there. And I was in the United States, and I said, no, let's prove that we crazy scientists can land in a place like that and change completely the gestalt, the feeling, the idea that we Brazilians had about that little piece of desert, because that's what it is. It's called the Northeast Desert. Every Brazilian knows about it. And it's traditionally an area that, as I said, nobody put any hope. Well, I went to talk to the president of Brazil, at that time, President Lula, and the first thing he asked me is, why in heavens you want to do there? Nobody goes there. No scientist will ever come to the presidential palace and propose to go to that place. I said, well, because there are people there. There are good people there. There are good kids. And these kids need to know that no matter where you're born, no matter where you are, no matter where you grow up, if you want to do something real badly, if you really love something that you want to do for your life, like being a scientist, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you're from the outskirts of Natal, or the outskirts of Bahia, or Paraíba, or Sergipe. These are states in Brazil that people never associated with high-quality science. And I told the president of Brazil, look, we want to do something more. We want to show that science, yes, as we heard, and I agree totally, science and technology investment and development are highly correlated with economic development. We know that. That is an equation that everybody in the world knows. But I wanted to prove a different point. I wanted to prove that science can change lives. Science can bring hope. Science can galvanize people to look for their personal limits. Science can make us aim at the impossible, and actually sometimes, it's rare, but sometimes actually make it happen. And that can happen anywhere. It can happen in Natal, it can happen in any part of the planet. The only thing you need is passion. Because I said, I take for granted that talent is already inside of us. It comes with our inheritance. So, why I'm saying all this, because, about 2 months ago, I was, believe it or not, and this is the first time I'm going to talk publicly about this, the craziest thing I ever did in my life. I have been a scientist for 30 years now, and this was by far the craziest adventure I got myself in. President Lula was leaving office, and he and the next upcoming president, President Dilma, were talking that they wanted to showcase during the World Cup a different kind of country. The country had undergone so many different transformations from the typical Brazil that everybody knew abroad. The last 12 years have been so amazing for the country that we wanted to have something in the opening of the World Cup that was more than what the world knew about the country. And I was working in Natal already in this institute that we created, and that I'm going to get back to in a moment. And there was a need for ideas. What should we do in the opening ceremony of this huge event? For Brazil, it's more than religion. Football is much more important, actually. Sorry, but it's true. They claim that when you are in the belly of your mother, you're already learning how to kick a soccer ball with the placenta, And my mother confirms that, she said that it's true. But then there was this flourishing in the country, this request for ideas. So I went to the president of Brazil, President Dilma, and I said, I have an idea. Let's showcase a completely different country. Let's showcase a country that can support and go for a scientific project that could impact the lives of more than 20 million people around the globe. Let's go there and show in a very symbolic gesture, briefly, that the Brazilian government, the Brazilian society, and Brazilian scientists want to give a gift of hope to the world. It's not the end of the idea, it's not the end of the story, it's just the beginning. So I propose that we would create an international consortium called the Walk Again Project, bring 150 scientists and technicians and thinkers from all over the world, and get these people to work together in Brazil to build a robot, never built before, that could allow a paralyzed man, a young adult that is paralyzed from the chest down, to actually be in charge of the opening kick of the World Cup. This is the dream of every Brazilian kid, to actually score a goal in the World Cup, or to kick a ball in the World Cup, and not be killed by the Germans. Unfortunately, we didn't escape the second part this time. But that's okay, we have one enough, we can take that one. We have 5, It's our only hope now. In any event, the idea was, can we make a young adult Brazilian who has been paralyzed because of a lesion of the spinal cord to be on the football pitch on opening day of the World Cup? Imagine that he wants to kick a ball, and we read his thoughts, and we send this thinking of kicking a ball that he cannot do anymore because his body cannot move. But by thinking, he can connect to this machine, and this machine can kick the ball for him and more, because this machine has all sorts of funny sensors on the foot. The signal that is generated by the contact with the ball can be transmitted back to his arms, because he can feel the arms. And his brain would provide to him the sensation that he really kicked that ball. That was the idea. You can imagine how the president of Brazil looked at me when I finished, right? But to my total delight, she said, "Can it be done?" I said, "Well, it's going to be close. Nobody has done it. It can be, it's a very tough thing to do, but yes, it can be done." And of course, I had no clue about it, right? And she signed it, and we started working. This was 17 months before the World Cup. 17 months. We had nothing. We had no robot. We had no patient. We had no facilities. We had the Institute in Natal. We had my friends from all over the world that dropped everything they were doing, literally. Gordon Sheng, my best friend, and I'm sorry, he'll kill me. University of Munich, Technical University of Munich, dropped his life. Alan Rudolph, vice president of Colorado State, also dropped everything he was doing. And so more than 100 people came together and started working on this thing. And as I said, this is the first time I'm talking about this publicly, because 2 months ago, close to 2 months ago, in the afternoon on June 12, precisely at 3:33 p.m. in the afternoon, I was standing next to my best friends and 8 of our patients on the sideline of this football stadium. And I have to say, it's the football stadium of the wrong team in São Paulo, because that's the team I don't root for. Is the enemy, number one enemy of football of my own team, that is the Italian neighborhood team, Palmeiras. If you ever go to Brazil, you already know which team you should root for. It's the green one, In any event, I was there standing, and I decided that it was such a crucial moment in my life. I put my cell phone with a timer on the grass, just next to my feet. I didn't, allow the FIFA officials to see it, because they would not like it, of course, because they don't like anything. And I put my cell phone, this cell phone I have with me here, with a timer, because we are supposed to do this demonstration I just mentioned at minute 18 of the ceremony and 33 seconds. Swiss people, they like this stuff. It had to happen exactly at 18 minutes and 33 seconds from the beginning of the ceremony, and it was supposed to last 29 seconds. Nobody has ever done a robotic demonstration in less than 10, 20 minutes. We had 29 seconds to show for close to 1 billion people in the world that we had fulfilled our word. And that young Brazilian, Juliano Pinto, 29 years old, 6 years on a wheelchair, a lesion, a T4 lesion of the spinal cord, so he could not move from the chest down, had not been upright for 6 years. He was sitting for 6 years because of this car accident. We had 29 seconds to show that Juliano could imagine that he wanted to kick a ball. This exoskeleton, this robot, would gather that thought, would transform into a digital command, and that digital command would make this foot kick like a Brazilian kick, and Juliano would be able to feel it. So I was there, and put this cell phone, the timer was running, and my entire scientific life ran through my head in those 18 minutes and 33 seconds. Because I knew if that we fail in front of 1 billion people, it's not easy to go home. Not even your mother will open the door, right? And the whole country of Brazil, which, as I told you, is football mad, believe it or not, for the 2 months, 3 months before the World Cup, people were talking about neuroscience. They were talking about How is this kid going to kick this ball? This was a conversation everywhere. It was on the TV, on the newspapers. More important, it was in every bar, on every corner of Brazil. People were saying, look, the Brazilian team is so-and-so, as it proved to be true. Let's talk about neuroscience. Let's talk about whether this is going to happen. So in those 18 minutes, I remember the days at University of São Paulo when I was a kid, your age. And I was sitting in an auditorium like this, and people were coming and saying, oh, you know, it's difficult to be a scientist. It's really, really difficult, and you may not have a chance. That's what I heard when I was 17. Because it's not every day that you get a scientist coming out of this school. It's difficult. You know, science is for the guys up there, up north. And I was thinking, gee, what a journey. What a road, you know? Because when I went to my advisor, who was the creator of neuroscience in Brazil, my Brazilian advisor at University of São Paulo, who was one of the greatest scientists I ever met in my life, Dr. Cesar Timoier, and told him what I wanted to do of my life as a scientist after I got my PhD with him, I told him that I wanted to record hundreds of thousands of brain cells. I wanted to listen to brainstorms. I wanted to listen to these electrical storms that make this universe that we carry between our ears. It is a universe because the only thing comparable to our brain in number of elements, we had 100 billion cells in our heads, is that thing up there. It's the only thing that compares to that universe up there is this thing. Besides, is this thing that tells us what is our history of that universe. The whole concept of what is out there comes from here. Well, when I told Dr. Cesar that I wanted to record these electrical brainstorms and decode them, I asked, where should I go? He said, oh, I know the perfect place you should go. I said, wow, that's phenomenal. That's the reason I think you're great. And he said, yes, it's called the airport. You go to the airport, you take a plane to the United States, and you find a lunatic there, because there's always one, and they listen to what you want to do, and you get it done. And I did find a phenomenal lunatic, John Chapin, who was the only other person on earth at that time that wanted to do as crazy an idea as this, to record these brainstorms. Because it's in these brainstorms, John knew, and I knew, but nobody would listen to us in 1989, is embedded in these brainstorms that we find everything that defines what we are. Our human nature is in there. Our dreams, our memories, our plans for the future, our remembrances of the past, our decisions, our will, our free will, yeah, it does exist, is right there. But we are not, in '89, nobody would pay attention to it the way I think we should. Well, it took us 30 years to convince people that that was the way we should look at it. And back to that football stadium, a minute 18:30, I was thinking this has to work, because this is just the beginning. It's opened the doors for the entire world to realize that science is about hope. Yes, science is about economic development, there's no doubt about that. And Brazil is investing in it, you know, and several nations have proved that. The United States is one of them, but there's a warning for people. Science is about giving people hope. Hope for change their lives for better. Hope for getting someone that is not able to walk again. Hope to change the world. Hope to discover where we came from, where we are going. What is this universe out there? Is this what is there? Is there something else? Is there someone out there that we one day will be able to talk? This is what science is about. Science is about the dream, it's about the journey. Well, it turned out that a minute 18, second 33, Juliano thought about kicking the ball. That thought was translated into a digital command that a machine could understand. In half a second, the machine transformed that thought into a leg movement, a foot movement. That foot kicked that ball. It was a gentle kick. It was not the final kick, but it was the beginning was the first kick. But more important than anything, in those 19 seconds that took for Juliano to complete the entire task, and even though FIFA only showed on TV 7 seconds or so, for no reason explained to this moment, we don't have no idea what that happened. When we all ran to Juliano to celebrate, and as you can imagine, Juliano and I and all of us, we're all crying like kids. The first thing I heard, Juliano is screaming on a football pitch. Not any football pitch, a Brazilian football pitch. That's different. That's holy ground, you know? The first thing I heard Juliano say was, I felt it. He felt the ball when he kicked it. And that's what science is about. Thank you.